This smells of old time geekery.
Welcome to episode 232 of Nerdery and Murdery.
Big 232. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Geoffrey with the Murdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows, the ups and downs, the good and the bad, and the nerd and the murd. I'm going to throw a shout out right here, right now, because our good friend Chuck just messaged me and said, "Hey, are we golfing at 2?" And I said, "Yes, sir, we are.
Yes.
I will see you on the course. So make sure you're awake."
Yay. Maybe we should let him have some of our unedited stuff. Just give him access, so in case he needs to go to sleep.
Maybe. I finally heard somebody describe why golf is as hard as it is, and I'd never really thought about this. Golf is a game of degrees.
Mm-hmm.
If you alter your swing, the ball, the tee, anything as much as 1 degree, you'll screw up what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you are not perfect on your shot, you will go all over the place. And that's one of the things I'm facing right now. I'm hoping to get to the range a little bit early today because I got to figure out what's wrong with my drive. I can't drive right now. I'm chunking it. I'm doing worm burners. I'm not getting anywhere with it. My irons are fine. Mostly. I'm not great with them, but they're fine. I got to figure out my drive. The drive is so important on any hole on a golf course because it's getting you as close as you can to try to get that score. So I've got to get there and figure it out. I've been like a week now of terrible golf for me. So, but I'm having fun. I don't care. I've only lost my temper once. It's so easy to do. You get so mad at it.
You're still, every time you talk about this, it's like, yeah, I want to play this game even less now.
Yeah, but I want to play it more. Golf is the only game I know of that when you're really, really good at it, you want to play more. And when you're really, really bad at it, you want to play more. I'm telling you, it's that euphoria of that one shot that happens. And it just erases all of it. And it's just, I don't know. For me, I'm outside. I'm with friends. I'm having fun.
Being outside the park-like experience, that stuff sounds awesome.
See, and maybe you should do what Michael Shanks over at Two Geeks and a Microphone has done and try disc golf.
No, it just stops my walk. It's interrupting my walk.
Somebody wrote that book, A Good Walk Ruined, and it's a book about golf.
Yeah, it is.
I don't remember who.
But then again, I also grew up next to a forest, and that was one of the things I like to do is just walk around the forest when I was a kid. Just start walking. So maybe that's my problem. Maybe it's because I grew up in the woods.
Maybe. I don't know. I have fun doing it. I can't wait to. I haven't seen. Well, I saw Chuck last week when we had the release party for the book, Prime Numbers, by the way. But yeah, I saw him last week for that. But I haven't golfed with him in 2 or 3 weeks. He's been busy. So I was really happy that he's able to meet with me today. So I think Billy and Faith are coming with us too. So we'll probably have a nice group to hang out with and have fun and swear a lot and
nice. Yeah. Have some nice drinks, some nice lunch.
Yeah, probably won't. Probably not any lunch. We don't generally eat on the course. But drinking does occur. I don't drink as much on the course. Used to be before I headed out to the course, I made sure that we had our cooler stocked with beer, and I had that on the course. But honestly, it's been so hot this summer.
Yeah,
and it's still so hot. I go with water.
Yeah, you might be hurting yourself.
Yeah, and I would notice that if I took beer or if I just took my Diet Pepsi with me, because I would do that, I would take Diet Pepsis with me and fill up my little mug. My Nerdery and Murdery cup. I would just be in a lot of pain afterwards. But I noticed if I drink water, I'm in a lot less pain afterwards. So I generally have been taking water out with me now. Billy, everybody else they drink beer out there or drink whatever. Fireballs for whatever reason, which I don't understand, is a big thing down here. I don't understand that, but it's huge.
Just
Huge.
this is a regional thing. Everybody's into fireballs.
I guess so.
It was like Austin. It was like Austin in the early 90s. Everybody was gaga over Zima in Austin. And we couldn't figure out why.
Zima.
Yeah, and not just like the regular flavor, like all the flavors, the gold.
That
Everybody in Austin was gaga over it.
That or they would put a little shot of grenadine in there.
Uh-huh.
Well, and it's the same thing. I don't understand the whole fascination right now with White Claw. I don't. Just don't. But that's just me.
It's Zima in a less pretty container. Because I will say this, the Zima bottles were gorgeous.
They were gorgeous. It was a brilliant blue and black scheme on the Zima bottles. Brilliant blue. That's one of my favorite colors because I think that color is electric blue, which is my favorite color. Mm-hmm. Those of you out there that needed to know that, electric blue is my favorite color.
Electric blue.
Which one of the reasons I always like the song because I like that color. Electric blue is just is a beautiful color of blue. But yeah, so I mean, I take water out there. I put water bottles in my cooler, and that's what I take out because it's just easier. So anyway, so Chuck, wake up, because as of today, as you're listening to this, you and I are golfing in just a couple hours. So
yeah, there you go.
All right, you ready to take it off?
Yeah. As I said in the stab, we're going to talk about some old school nerdy shit.
Go for it.
Today, we're talking about Society for Creative Anachronisms, also known as the SCA. It is an international living history group with the aim of studying and recreating mainly medieval European culture and their histories before the 17th century. A quip often used within the SCA describes it as a group devoted to the Middle Ages, as they ought to have been. Choosing to selectively recreate the culture, choosing elements of the culture that interest and attract us, founded in 1966, the nonprofit educational corporation has over 20,000 paid members as of 2020, with about 60,000 total participating in the society, including members and non-member participants. The SCA's roots can be traced to the backyard party of a UC Berkeley medieval studies graduate, the author Diane Paxson, in Berkeley, California, on May Day in 1966. The party began with a grand tournament in which the participants wore helmets, fencing masks, and usually some semblance of a costume, and sparred with each other using weapons such as plywood swords, padded maces, and fencing foils. It ends with a parade down Telegraph Avenue with everyone singing Green Sleeves. The SCA still measures dates within the society from the date of that party, calling the system Anno Societatis. I can't speak Latin, dude. I just can't do it.
That's all right. That's all right.
In the year of our society. For example, 2009, May 1st to 2010, April 30th, was ASXLIV, or 44. The name Berkeley Society for Creative Anachronisms was coined by science fiction author Marion Zimmer Bradley, an early participant when the nascent group needed an official name in order to reserve a park for the tournament. Berkeley was dropped from the group expanded. 3 other co-founders were science fiction authors Poul Anderson, his wife, writer Karen Cruz Anderson, and their daughter Astrid. Okay. This May Day in 1966 is also the beginning date for Renaissance fairs. The two things were born from the same event.
I was going to tell you at the beginning, I remember years ago, our friend Keith, who's been on the show before and will be on again soon, or
yes,
actually in the past, he will have been a couple episodes ago, but he'll be on again. But anyway, bygone.
Yeah, we book into the episodes he's going to be on. So he'll be on one. It's like, oh, you got him again? No, we recorded in the same day. We just split the episodes up.
Yeah, for ease. But he used to have like a button, if I remember right, that you could pin onto yourself. If I remember right, I think it said Society for Creative Anachronism. We don't make much sense, but we sure do like pizza.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
We actually knew a guy who participated in it too. Fury. Fury was a big
Yeah.
proponent of SCA, and man, he would get the crap beat out of him. But he was always so proud of this one time when he was holding a bridge with a glaive against an entire army. He's like, Jesus Christ, dude, what did you do? He's like, oh, I just kind of pushed him off the bridge with my pole arm. It was like, good God. But he was a tough dude anyway. What? I don't know what the man's real name was. I only knew him as Fury. So that should tell you how hardcore this dude was.
Yeah, I didn't know him as anything else either. So
in 1968, Bradley and her husband, Walter Breen, that was Mary and Zimmer Bradley, moved to Staten Island, New York, where they co-founded the Kingdom of the East, holding a tournament that summer to determine the first Eastern King of the SCA. That September, a tournament was held at the 26th World Science Fiction Convention, which was in Berkeley that year. The SCA had produced a book of the convention called The Handbook for the Current Middle Ages, which was a how-to book for people wanting to start their own SCA chapters. Convention goers purchased the book and the idea spread. Soon, other local chapters began to form. In October of 1968, the SCA was incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit corporation in California. By the end of 1969, the SCA's three original kingdoms had been established: West Kingdom, East, and Middle. All SCA kingdoms trace their roots to these original three. The number of SCA kingdoms has continued to grow by the expansion and division of its existing kingdoms. For example, the kingdoms now called the Outlands, Artemisia, Anstiora, Glenabans, Merides, and Trimaries are all made up of lands originally belonging to the fourth kingdom, Attenveld, which began as a branch of the West Kingdom. We are in Attenveld, or yes, we are in Attenveld, I believe. I've got a listing of that later on in the notes. The SCA engages in a broad range of activities, including SCA armored combat, SCA fencing, archery, equestrian activities, feasting, medieval dance, and recreating medieval arts and sciences, including a broad range of crafts as well as medieval music and theater. Other activities include the study and practice of heraldry, scribal art, calligraphy, and illumination. Members are afforded opportunities to register as medieval personal names at coat of arms, often colloquially called a device in SCA parlance. SCA scribes produce illuminated scrolls to be given by SCA royalty as awards for various achievements. Most local groups in the SCA hold weekly fighter practice, and many also hold regular archery practice, dance practice, A&S, arts and science nights, and other regular gatherings. Some kingdoms and regions also have occasional war practices, where fighters practice formations and group tactics in preparation for a large-scale war event. The research and approach by members of the SCA toward the recreation of history has led to new discoveries about medieval life. The SCA does not require participants to wear historically accurate clothing or equipment. According to Newcomer's Guide, we request that all participants make an attempt at the pre-17th century clothing, commonly referred to as garb. As you pick items, always remember to try not to make them obtrusively modern.
So I have to throw this out here because we've seen this done on TV, and I know people have done it in real life. One of my favorite things to see is the Starfleet landing party at a Ren fair. I think that's hysterical.
What's great is, because that became such a thing, occasionally you'll see someone in a Ren fair outfit walk up to them, open up a coat and show a Starfleet emblem and start dressing them down for violating the Prime Directive. It happens a lot.
That's hysterical.
What the hell are you doing? You're in violation of the Prime Directive.
That's great.
Oh my God. But yeah, so SCA holds its own events as a nonprofit educational organization for the benefit of SCA members and their guests. This is unlike most Renaissance fairs, which are open to the public and held mainly as entertainment for profit. Another noticeable difference is that SCA events are historically earlier than most Renaissance fairs. Each kingdom in the SCA runs its own schedule of events, which are announced in their kingdom's newsletter and usually posted on the kingdom's website. But some of the largest SCA sanctioned events, often called wars, attract members from many kingdoms. Pensic War, fought annually between the East Kingdom and the Middle Kingdom, is the biggest event in the SCA. Likewise, Estrella War, was held for over 30 years, many between two large regional SCA groups, the Kingdom of Attenvelt and the Kingdom of the Outlands. Most Estrella Wars were held near Phoenix, Arizona in late February and last around 7 to 9 days. Several thousand people attend each year, some from as far as Sweden, Germany, France, Italy, Greece, and Australia. On July 31st, 2021, it was announced that the Estrella War had been canceled permanently. Other annual SCA wars include Gulf Wars in Glen Abrams, formerly Marides, Great Western War in Cade, War of the Lilies in Calontir, and others. Other annual or semi-annual kingdom-level events held analogously by most of the other SCA kingdoms include crown tournaments, coronation, kingdom arts and science competitions, and queen's prizes. Additionally, most baronies in the SCA have their own traditional annual events, such as baronial arts and science competitions, a championship tournament, and often a Yule or 12th night feast. Various SCA groups also sometimes host collegia or symposia where members gather for classes of various medieval arts and sciences and other SCA-related topics. So, the main difference between SCA and Renaissance fairs, and again, they were stemmed from an original event. SCA is more of a community organization, where a Renaissance fair is something that happens for money. However, the two are not mutually exclusive. A lot of the fighters you see that hold the tournaments in the Renaissance fairs, because you'll get jousting, you'll get sword fights and other stuff like that. Most of those guys are members of SCA groups. I think almost exclusively at this point. The same with like the medieval times. I don't know if they have those everywhere. It's basically a dinner. Yeah, there's a dinner and it's a dinner and tournament. So you get the medieval tournament and you eat like medieval stuff, chicken legs and stuff like that, or turkey legs, and you watch people duke it out with swords and stuff. But again, a lot of these people are SCAs. This is full force geekery. When you wanted to know what is the movie? Role Models.
Role Models. I was going to say it's in Role Models. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what's going on. Is a SCA event.
Yeah. I was going to mention that. Looks like Medieval Times is in Atlanta, Baltimore, Buena Park, California, Chicago, Dallas, Lyndhurst, Myrtle Beach, Orlando, Scottsdale, and Toronto.
Nice. So yeah, if you want to see if you like this sort of thing, you should go check out Medieval Times. It's fun evening. But yeah, it's the same sort of thing. You get some food along, but usually SCA events have food there. But it's mostly a volunteer organization. They're not looking to make a profit as much as they are just to keep the organization going. Whereas Renaissance fairs, it's more of a profit. But again, they're not mutually exclusive. A lot of the people participate in both. The minimum standard for attendance at an SCA event is an attempt at pre-17th century clothing, and there's a general goal of maintaining a historical atmosphere. However, SCA members will use modern elements when necessary for personal comfort, medical needs, or to promote safety, e.g. wearing prescription eyewear, using rattan for swords, or sheer thickening substances for padding. Unlike some other living history groups, most SCA gatherings do not reenact a specific time or place in history, leaving members free to dress as any culture within the SCA's time period. The SCA produces 2 quarterly publications, the Complete Anachronist and Tournaments Illuminated, and each kingdom publishes a monthly newsletter. The Complete Anachronist is a quarterly monographic series. Each issue focuses on a specific topic related to the period, circa 600 to 1600 in history. Issues are written by SCA members and have covered a wide range of topics. Tournaments Illuminated is a quarterly magazine, each issue covering a range of topics and includes several features such as news, a humor column, book reviews, war reports, and various articles with SCA-related topics of interest. Groups are active all over the United States, Canada, Europe, Australia, Japan, South Africa, and New Zealand, with scattered groups elsewhere, including China, Israel, Panama, and Thailand. At one time, there was even a group on the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz, known as the Shire of Curragmore, anglicized Irish for big boat. And the Shire's arms played on the Nimitz ship's badge. There's also an active chapter in South Korea, the stronghold of Warrior's Gate, with a mix of active duty military personnel from several services and military connected civilians. There are also non-territorial groups, usually called households, which are not part of the society's formal organization, the largest of which is the Mongol Empire themed Great Dark Horde. So these dudes will show up to SCA events as Mongols. I love that so much. Again, it's like the Star Trek people. The West Kingdom was created when the society originated in 1966. It currently includes Northern California, most of Nevada and Alaska, as well as Japan, Korea, and the Pacific Rim, excluding Australia and New Zealand. The Kingdom of the East was created in 1968 in the United States. It covers eastern Pennsylvania, eastern New York, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. In Canada, it covers parts of Quebec, Prince Edward's Island, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland. The Middle Kingdom was created in 1968, and it currently borders and includes Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Lower Michigan, and parts of Kentucky and Iowa and Ontario. The Kingdom of Attenvelt was created in 1971. It originally encompassed all the lands between the East and West Kingdoms and the Middle Kingdom, and now consists of the state of Arizona and northwestern part of Nevada. The Kingdom of Merides was created in 1978 from the Kingdom of Attenvelt. It currently encompasses Alabama, southwestern Kentucky, almost all of Georgia, east and central Tennessee, and a bit of the panhandle of Florida. The Kingdom of Cade was created in 1978 from the kingdoms in the West. It currently encompasses Southern California, the Las Vegas metropolitan area, and Hawaii. The Kingdom of Anistora was created in 1979 from the Kingdom of Attenvelt. Anistora covers Oklahoma and most of Texas, as well as the International Space Station.
Nice.
Yeah, I read that. I was like, oh, yeah, I got to read that out. I mean, there are several other kingdoms. There is a part of Texas that is in the Kingdom of the Outlands was created in 86 from the Kingdom of Attenvelt. It encompasses New Mexico and Colorado, parts of Wyoming, Nebraska Panhandle, El Paso County, and the Hudspeth County in Texas. So a little piece of Texas is in the Outlands Kingdom. And there are other parts which consist of Europe and Africa and the Middle East. There's a lot of this going on. These different kingdoms. And of course, you've got different households which go to these kingdoms to fight it out. That's kind of part of the deal. I've been in and around this thing for years. I have never been a participant because I don't want to get the shit beat out of me. I have done some practices with some of these people. These are all theater people, musicians, science fiction writers, a lot of actors, a lot of D&D players. It's just a way to go have fun.
Sure.
It's different from LARP, which is actually, I think, bigger than SCA now.
Well, and LARP do other things as well. You've got LARP that do vampires and all kinds of different things.
Yeah, but I mean SCA is basically doing tournaments and warfare and stuff with rattan swords with padding on them, what they call safer swords, and the archery is they actually are shooting arrows, but they're tipped with tennis balls, so they don't fly great. But if you get hit by one, you got shot.
It's gonna sting.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt because they're using Welsh longbows, and those things got a lot of damn power behind them. But yeah, I mean, and these guys sometimes they will field armies of a couple thousand people and just go to town. Most of it is smaller than that. Most of it is a lot smaller than that. You're looking at maybe a couple hundred people at most. But in some of these wars, you might have 2,000-3,000 people there clashing. And of course, they set up tents for food, and they try to keep the food as period as possible while maintaining cleanliness and safety, which the medieval people were not concerned about, whereas we are. but you get some good stuff, and they have a good time. It's a really great way to nerd out. And if you were ever interested in it, you can go. I've listed their website, and in our YouTube page, I've also listed basically things you need to know about it. There's a quick reference guide. They want people to join. They are actively recruiting members all the time because people get too old to go fight in combat. You know,
Sure. I wouldn't do it.
Not today. I seriously considered it in my 20s, but it was like, now, no, I don't want. I don't think I could take it. I'm in my 50s now. That's not a thing for me. I wouldn't mind going to see some of it, maybe helping out. Um, Shit, I wouldn't even mind volunteering, doing some cooking. That might be fun. Or, pretending to make armor or actually making armor. But yeah, this SCA is something that's been around for a long time, since the 60s. It is old school nerdery, and they do like pizza. Can confirm. But
Cool.
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think you should check it out. We've talked about RenFest before in our
Hmm.
show, and now this the SCA. It's a separate offshoot, but they are closely related.
Yeah,
Um, I've always heard it's a lot of fun. I like to go see one, but um, I think it's fairly fascinating, and especially like you said, knowing Fury from so many years ago, how really in. I think he told me once that there was this whole park that they used in Austin, which had like no lights whatsoever, and they would do it
hmm
in the middle of the night.
hmm
So very interesting, very interesting. So thanks for spotlighting that. I think it's
Sure.
something that's really cool, and I think people would enjoy learning more about and seeing. So
Yes.
definitely check it out.
Yes,
Cool.
definitely check out the YouTube playlist because again, it's basically SCA 101 is the first video. It's an online class on how it works.
That's cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for that.
Sure.
With that, we'll step over to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
For today, I got my information off News Nation, Medium, The Charlie Project, ABC News 28 Tampa, and Fox 13 News Tampa. And this is the story of the disappearance of Zachary Bernhardt.
Zachary Bernhardt.
Yeah, we've covered disappearances from time to time, and I think they're very important when I come across ones like this. That these stories keep going and going and going and going until the outcome of the disappearance is discovered, until the person is found. I hate to say it, regardless of whether they're alive or dead. Um, these stories need to keep getting told. The information needs to keep getting out there because at some point, somewhere, somebody's going to go, "Oh, hey, I know that guy, or I know that girl, or I am that guy or that girl." I think
It's
these are.
happened in a few occasions. It's
It
like, oh my
has,
God, that's me.
yeah. So we talked at least about two of those that I recall correctly, or if I recall correctly, but. Zachary Bernhardt was born on December 18th, 1991. His birth certificate listed no father. At the time, his mother, Leah Hackett, was just 20 years old, and she was living in Lakeland, Florida with her boyfriend. But shortly after Zach's birth, a paternity test revealed that this boyfriend was not the biological father of Zach. And this was and this was a surprise to the boyfriend that would cause them to break up. So Leah packed up and moved out. To this day, no one in Leah's family will say who Zachary's real father is, or if he even knows he has a son. Um, but with no father in the picture, Leah gave Zachary her mother's married name, which was Bernhardt. And from that moment on, it was just the two of them mostly. Zachary himself was a very thoughtful, curious little boy. He was the kind of child that would take bits and pieces of things around the house, turn them into something new. He'd build towers of stacked cups or makeshift cars from spare parts. His creativity never stopped, and his family used to smile at his creations and say, "That one's going to be an architect someday." He seemed to be a well-adjusted boy, but Life for Zach was anything but stable. In 1994, Leah had a second child, a baby girl. For a time, she was with the child's father, but that relationship didn't last. And eventually, Leah returned to Florida with both children in tow. That's why I said it was them two mostly. Then came a moment that raised eyebrows even years later. During a visit with her ex, Leah left both children, including Zach, with him and asked if he'd watch them while she stepped out for a bit. She said she was exhausted and struggling with being a single mom and just needed a night out. And the ex agreed to watch both children for a few hours, but Leah didn't come back for several days. The man would later fight for custody of his daughter, believing that Leah was far too irresponsible to care for their child, and he'd win. And then from that point on, Leah had little to no contact with her daughter ever again. So it was just her and Zachary. They bounced from place to place through eviction, financial struggles, temporary shelters. And by the time Zachary was 5, he had already lived in more places than most kids his age could even count. His life was just a patchwork of brief stability, sudden moves, and the constant shuffle of new adults entering and exiting his world. In 1996, Leah moved into a district in Tampa known for its nightlife, and there she met a 22-year-old young man and moved into his apartment at Mallard Point on 4th Street, but Zachary didn't come with her. Instead, Zachary lived with Leah's sister in Plant City. This was not unusual at the time. It was fairly common for their family to take turns caring for Zach while his mother stumbled away through her life. But Leah's relationship with this new man was volatile, even violent, with him ultimately being charged with domestic battery in an incident where he shoved Leah. By November of that year, they had broken up, with Leah remaining in the apartment by herself. The following year, in May of 1997, Leah's sister tried contacting her at this apartment, and she wanted to get in touch with her as she had been caring for Zachary for about a year. So she dropped Zachary off for a year.
Wow.
But there wasn't any sign of her. There wasn't any. She wasn't at the apartment. She wasn't reachable by phone. So they thought something horrible had happened. So she was reported to the police as missing. Leah had threatened suicide in the past. She drank heavily and had shown up for work in 2 weeks. But a few days later, Leah resurfaced like nothing had happened. Eventually, Leah and Zachary ended up in a crumbling apartment complex in downtown St. Petersburg. And one of the owners, Richard Martinez Jr., made Leah the apartment manager in June of 1998. In return, he paid her rent and utility bill. Outside of this, she had no job and no income. But just 3 months later, Martinez fired her, and this was not a quiet fallout. Leah filed a complaint in court, alleged that during a heated dispute, Martinez ripped off her shirt while trying to take the apartment keys from her, so the judge ordered Martinez to have no contact with her. From there, Leah and Zach moved in with a friend at Windtree Village in High Point. Zach was pulled from Lakewood Elementary and enrolled in the first grade at Frontier Elementary in Largo. And this is where LaRue Pearson, his teacher, met him. And she said, quote, "He was a sweet little boy, quiet, well-mannered. If another student was upset, Zach would ask what he could do to help. He just had that empathy and that heart."
Just a sweet kid all around.
Yeah. LaRue Pearson met with Leah once and walked away thinking she was a devoted mother, but then there was something strange. Leah told Pearson that she was dying of cancer, which raised eyebrows when Pearson later saw Leah on TV. I didn't have a whole lot on that, but, little plot twist here. Leah was not dying of cancer.
Yep.
Not really sure why she made up such a lie. We really don't know. Maybe it was for attention and sympathy, but honestly, sympathy can only go so far when you're caught in a lie. Leah would soon be evicted from her apartment for non-payment of rent, so she and Zach had to move once again, this time to the Savannah Trace Apartments on Drew Street in northeast Clearwater. This was a very quiet neighborhood, and it was settled between the waters of the Gulf and Tampa Bay. And at this point, things kind of seemed to be stabilizing with them. Zach was enrolled at Eisenhower Elementary School, which was nearby. Leah took a night shift job. She helped organize a school carnival. And by outward appearances, everybody really kind of thought she was finally trying. School staff members said they remembered her being engaged and involved. And Zach's principal even described her as, quote, a parent who showed up. Friends and family described her as a doting mother, devoted to Zachary and always by his side. Her mother, Carol, said she noticed something changed after the custody of the loss of her daughter, and that's when Leah started to begin treating Zachary like that's all she had left in the world. At 29 years old, Leah had a bit of a reputation for partying in her earlier years, but by all accounts, now she was trying. She was trying to provide, trying to settle, and trying to build something stable for Zach. And then, unfortunately, just like that, he was gone. Um, it was a Monday night in Clearwater. It was a very humid night, even after midnight. And inside Leah's apartment, she had decided that she was going to stay awake through the night, which was something she was already very used to doing. She didn't have to work that evening, which was unusual for her. She usually worked the night shift, but she stayed up anyway. According to her family, Zach had complained about being late to school too many times, and he didn't want to be late for school in the morning. Leah had overslept before, and she didn't want to risk it again. So instead of going to bed, she just kind of kept moving.
Just stayed up. Yeah.
Yeah, she was cleaning. She took out the trash. She wandered around the complex.
Yeah, she'll go to bed when she drops the kid off.
Yeah. And then sometime between 2 and 3 a.m., Leah decided to step outside for a cigarette. She said she checked on Zach before she left and said he was asleep in bed, very peacefully asleep. And then she stepped out. What happened next is very much debated. Leah said she felt the heat pressing in on her, and in a very spontaneous decision, she made her way to the pool in the center of the apartment complex. She wasn't wearing a swimsuit, and she just slipped into the water and swam a few laps, just enough to cool off and to pass a little more time.
Yeah.
She said she then walked back to the apartment, changed in dry clothes, and peeked on her son again, but this time his bed was empty. So at first, Leah told police she thought Zach might have just rolled out of bed. She did search his room. She called his name, but there was no answer. She tore through the rest of the apartment. There was nothing, and that's when panic set in, so she called 911. Next, she called her mother, very hysterical over her missing child. And Leah's mom said, quote, she was all upset and crying and told us that she couldn't find Zachary, that someone took her baby. We just figured he went hiding with one of his friends, and that when we got over there, they would have found him. Unfortunately, this is not going to be the case. So what's debated is exactly how long Leah was outside has never been firmly established. In some versions of her story, she was only gone for 15 minutes. In other versions of her story, it may have been close to 2 hours. What's not in question, though, at some point during her window that she was gone, an 8-year-old boy vanished without a trace. Clearwater police arrived at the apartment in the early morning of September 11th, 2000. I found that date fascinating, 1 year before 9/11. But they found no sign of forced entry. There was no sign of struggle, nothing out of place, just the absence of Zach.
No blood,
no,
nothing.
none. Leah admitted to the officers that when she stepped out, she had left the door unlocked behind her, but she was certain that her son would not have wandered out to the street on his own.
No.
We talk about this a little more later, but everybody said Zach was deathly afraid of the dark.
Yeah.
So as the sun would come up, the search exploded into a massive operation. The police did not waste any time. By the afternoon of September 11th,
oh no,
the woods surround what?
He's in Clearwater, Florida.
I know. I talk about that. I talk about that at the end because I know where you're going with that. That's always a possibility, but we'll get there. They checked the woods surrounding the apartment complex, and they established a command center. They did send search dogs to weave through the underbrush. Remember that, search dogs. Helicopters circled overhead. There were hundreds of volunteers who joined in, and they looked through every corner, every alley, every storm drain, but there was no trace of Zach, no backpack, no shoes, not even a footprint. Okay, so this is where it gets odd. Flyers went up everywhere. They had, bright photos of Zach. As I said earlier, he was a child who, by all accounts, was deeply afraid of the dark, and yet he vanished without a sound into the night.
In the middle of the night.
So for investigators, they said something didn't quite sit right with him. This was a story of a mother going out for a casual swim at 2 or 3 in the morning while her young son slept alone. One neighbor told police they didn't buy it. The pool, they said, closed at 10 p.m., so why would anybody be swimming that late knowing it wasn't allowed? And then there's the inconsistencies. Leah's timeline shifted. She said she was gone for 15 minutes. Later, it was closer to 2 hours. Police did note how often Leah moved and how frequently she faced an eviction. And in fact, at the time of Zach's disappearance, she was behind on rent and facing another move. So this raised questions to investigators about stability and possible motive, but Leah held firm. She insisted she was innocent and that she had nothing to do with her son's disappearance. The press were all over this. Public response was very swift and emotional. Parents held their children tighter, tips flooded in, but nothing led anywhere. Zach's biological father, who I said was never involved in his life, was ruled out early on and has never been considered a suspect, which left investigators circling back to the one person who had last seen Zach alive, Leah. Authorities would later go on record stating they believe Zach disappeared under suspicious circumstances, and many within the department believed Leah Hackett knew more than she was saying, but there was no physical evidence, no confession, no eyewitnesses, and no Zach. So that's what's kind of weird about this. You would expect there would be footprints or something, So in the early days of the investigation, the suspicion was largely centered on those closest to him, especially his mother. But as the months turned into years, other names began to surface, and some tips were from the public, and others kind of came from dark corners of confessions, rumors, and very disturbing coincidences. And one of those was Kevin Jalbert. In 2001, just a year after Zach vanished, Jalbert, a Clearwater resident who lived near the Savannah Trace apartments, made a very chilling statement to an acquaintance. He said he was a child murderer. The acquaintance went to the police, and authorities launched an undercover operation to see if there was truth behind Jalbert's words or if he was just another man seeking attention. In September of that same year, Jalbert attempted to solicit an undercover officer for the abduction, sexual assault, and murder of a child. Thankfully, he was attempting to hire an undercover police officer and not someone else. Otherwise, there may have been another victim in this story. When investigators searched his property, they found a disturbing cache of child sex abuse materials, which was evidence that suggested a deeply troubled individual. Jalbert was arrested, convicted, and sentenced to 40 years in prison. But what caught investigators' attention wasn't just what he said, it's what he showed them. So Jalbert took detectives to the Savannah Trace apartment complex, and he claimed to have abducted a child from there. However, when pressed for the details, the story started to crack. He couldn't identify Zach's specific apartment. He couldn't remember what the child was wearing, and the more he talked, the more inconsistent it all became. But the implications were serious enough, they administered a polygraph, and he failed. That doesn't mean he did it. Polygraphs are not admissible in court, but it does lead them to dive further when somebody fails. When they asked him directly about Zach, he denied any involvement. He maintained that he had nothing to do with that case. They did get DNA evidence in Zach's disappearance that didn't match Jalbert either. Back when Zach had been reported missing, authorities had collected DNA from the crime scene, the apartment, but the specifics of this DNA, like what kind of DNA, has never been publicly disclosed. So whatever DNA they had didn't match. Jalbert has never been officially ruled out as a suspect. So we don't know if he was involved in Zachary's disappearance. However, Jalbert claims to be a serial killer. His sister tells a different story. She says Kevin is a chronic liar, that he's prone to investigation, that he says these things for attention so that he can feel powerful and control the narrative, even behind bars. So, where does that leave us? We got a man in prison for unspeakable crimes who claimed involvement in Zach's case, but couldn't back it up. There's a failed polygraph, no DNA match, and a case that's still wide open.
And it was on the news.
It was. In the years following Zach's disappearance, there were several other leads and potential suspects that have surfaced, each adding more complexity to an already perplexing case. One particularly disturbing incident occurred in January 2002, just over a year after Zach vanished. There was a 5-year-old boy that was abducted from the same apartment complex, Savannah Trace, and witnesses reported seeing a man in a white pickup truck with ice cream symbols to lure the child. This is the stuff you'll kind of only see in movies, but thankfully, The boy was later found alive in a dumpster behind a closed restaurant approximately 65 miles from where he'd been taken. It
Hmm.
has been assumed that he was likely sexually assaulted, but he managed to escape and flag down a passing motorist. However, despite the similarities in location and circumstances, authorities say they do not believe the abduction was connected to Zach's case. Kind of crazy to think about. What are the chances
Kind of
two
a
young boys would disappear from the same
it's kind of
apartment
a
complex just a
interesting
year apart?
coinky dink. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Apparently, the chances aren't impossible, but there was another lead in September of 2001 when a photograph was discovered in the parking lot of a grocery store in a mountain town about 55 miles west of Denver. The image depicted a bound and bruised blonde boy who bore a striking resemblance to Zachary. However, despite extensive investigations, police were unable to determine the identity of the child in the photo or whether it was connected to Zachary's disappearance. I am 95% positive I covered this case with this photo because there's another case that ties into this because there's a girl in that photo too. If these are the same
Oh
photos.
yeah. I remember that. They were in the
Yeah.
back of a van. It was a girl, and again, we talked about the
Yes.
girl
Yes, because we were talking specifically about the girl. This was supposedly the boy in the photo.
in the photo. Yeah, that is in one of
So,
our episodes.
yeah,
The
yeah,
photo. Yeah.
yeah. In a more recent development, there was a photograph on social media that showed a man who appeared to be a random drifter in Ocampo, Mexico. People were very quick to point out that he resembled an age-progressed image of Zach. The resemblance was striking enough to catch the attention of Zach's family, with his cousin expressing that her heart stopped upon seeing the image. However, authorities have not been able to establish any concrete connection between this individual and Zach. Um, so all these leads are very intriguing, but they've yet to provide definitive answers. As of April of this year, 2025, the disappearance of Zachary Bernhardt is an active and unsolved case. He's the subject of Florida's longest running Amber Alert, which continues to be active. Despite extensive investigations, including searches and public appeals, no definitive leads have
He'd be
emerged to explain his disappearance.
he'd be 33.
33.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Zach's mother, Leah Hackett, has since relocated to Hawaii and has changed her last name to Hansen. At some point, she just stopped being involved in the investigation. Early on, authorities considered the possibility she might have more information than she disclosed. As I said, her timeline and details about the night changed multiple times. This inconsistency, paired with the bizarre detail that she went for a swim fully clothed in the middle of the night, fueled the ongoing suspicion. It is important to note, though, that Leah has consistently maintained her innocence. No charges have ever been filed against her in connection with Zach's disappearance.
Yeah. I mean, and also she was staying up so she wouldn't run late. It is distinctly possible that she leaned in up against a lawn chair and fell asleep. So she
Possible.
may not know how long she was out there.
Yeah. There's also the chilling possibility that Zach was kidnapped by a complete stranger. A random abduction that happened during a short window of when Leah stepped out of the apartment. And while this is rare, stranger abductions do happen. It's very rare. But what's particularly unsettling is that another kidnapping reportedly took place in the same complex. Could it be someone in the area that had been watching them and waited
Mhm.
for the right moment to strike? Um, on the night of September 11th, 2000, when Leah was unexpectedly off work, that moment may have come when she stepped out, and perhaps the abductor seized the opportunity and then Zach was gone. Another theory, you mentioned this, it's very deeply tragic, is that Zach may have wandered away from the apartment on his own. Florida's landscape is covered with lakes, canals, and other waterways, and many of them just steps from residential neighborhoods. As I said, Savannah Trace Apartments is on Drew Street, which is a road that runs between the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America, whatever you want to say. I don't, and Tampa Bay. In between are countless bodies of water, and with them, the ever-present danger of alligators.
Yeah, not just alligators, but escaped ball pythons too,
Yeah.
which get big enough to eat small children.
You know, could Zach have woken up in the middle of the night, realized his mother wasn't home, and gone outside in search of her for her? It's certainly within the realm of possibility. He was only 8 years old, but if that was the case, you would think dogs would have picked up his scent. There was
Exactly.
no trace of him, no clothing, no shoes, no sign that a child had made his way toward any nearby water. And again, as a reminder, Zach was reportedly terrified of the dark.
Hmm.
So it kind of makes it difficult to believe he would voluntarily leave the apartment alone at night, which raises the possibility that he either knew the person that took him or he was forcibly removed. Then you've got Kevin Jalbert. He might have been guilty of something more than he was convicted for. He lived near Zach and later told an undercover police officer that he had kidnapped and murdered a child from Savannah Trace. He
Hmm.
did eventually recant that confession, but the damage was done at that point. Authorities did discover he was guilty of multiple crimes involving children. And so was he telling the truth and then backing out, or was he just a twisted individual bragging about a high profile case he'd seen on the news?
Hmm.
Um, that sounds unbelievable, but unfortunately it's not uncommon. Criminals do this. They insert themselves into investigations for the attention, for their
Hmm.
ego, or just to toy with law enforcement.
Yeah.
So whether Jalbert had anything to do with Zach's disappearance, it remains officially unproven, but the possibility continues to kind of haunt this case. What we know is Zachary Bernhardt vanished from his bed on a humid Florida night over 2 decades ago. Since then, his name has never been far from those who knew and loved him. His face, which is frozen in time at 8 years old, is still on missing persons flyers, police report, and a community that once rallied to find him. Zach's aunt, Billy Joe Jimenez, said, quote, emotionally, it's taken a toll on our entire family. We love him. We miss him. We want him to come home. We're still here. We're still actively looking for you. We've never given up hope and we never will. And he will come home. Was he taken by someone who was watching, or did he wander off in the dark searching for his mother, or was the truth really kind of closer to home? There's so many theories, so many possibilities, and yet no answers. As you had said, Zachary would be 33 years old today. What would his life be now had this not happened? Would he become the architect his family once thought he was? Would he still be that sweet, agreeable little boy who just wanted to play whatever game made the other kids happy? We're never going to know. But, well, we may never know, but we do know this. Someone out there knows what happened to Zachary Bernhardt. Until that truth can be found out, this case cannot and should not be forgotten, which is why I report on these disappearances. Again, he would be 33 years old today. He's a Caucasian male with blonde hair and blue eyes. He has scars under his chin, between his eye on the bridge of his nose, and on the right side of his upper lip. If you know anything about the disappearance of Zachary Bernhardt, no matter how small, please contact the Clearwater Police Department at 727-562-4422, or you can call your local law enforcement agency, because someone out there knows. Again, we're talking about a disappearance just 2 decades ago. How does someone disappear off the face of the planet today? Cameras are everywhere. Everyone is an amateur photographer. Disappearing off the grid forever is extremely difficult. Somebody knows something. And that's the story of the disappearance of Zachary Bernhardt.
Well, thank you, sir.
Like I said, I really like covering these to keep their name in the press somewhere, to keep their name out there, to keep it circulating. I would love for covering cases like this for a family to get closure. You hate for them to get closure with, of course, a tragic end, and you'd really like them to be reunited with their loved one who is alive and gone somewhere. But closure they need, regardless of what it is. They need closure because these families, um, they're in pain. They never forget their loved one. And I know Leah stopped being a part of the investigation, but I don't imagine in any way, shape, or form that she has ever gotten over the hurt of losing her
Oh
son.
God, no. Oh God,
So,
no.
so that's my story for this week, and that will take us to the end of another recording week.
Well, thank you for
Uh,
that, sir.
Thank you. As always, you can find more about us on nerderyandmurdery.com. That's our hub. That's everything that's about us. You'll find links, pictures, as well as the link to our YouTube page, which Zig so often updates.
Yeah, definitely check this one out. If you're interested in SCA, watch the first video. The other two are different errata. Hey, this is how we do combat. The first one is this is how you join SCA and where the nearest chapter is to you.
Awesome. Appreciate your work on all that.
Thank you, sir.
You can also find the link to our merchandise page, where if you wish to show off your Nerdery and Murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something from there. You can also find the link to our Patreon, where if you wish to become a patron, our donations from our patrons as well as our merchandise sales go to the costs that are associated with this show. It is not free. It is very costly to have our uploads, to have our website and our storage for everything, just to bring these to you week in and week out. So please do consider one of those avenues. We do appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Something, however, you can do that's completely free and only takes a minute of your time. Please leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It helps us and helps others find our content that may be looking for the information we discuss. And last but not least, Chuck, I'll see you on the golf course. You can go to sleep now.
Good night, Chuck.
Good night, Chuck. With that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Geoffrey with your murdering.
Cue the music.
From the comics to the screen.